Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Planet Coaster. We are starting today off with an update right at the start. No long intros this time. No talking about what we did last episode. No, we start immediately by showing you off the next building in the park. And that has nothing to do with the fact that I thought that I already recorded the intro. No, absolutely not. This was planned on my part. And we are here at the front of the car ride attraction, which is called the Tufferbaan, and the station. And if we take a walk all the way to this side over here, then we can see a cool little restaurant appearing. It's called het Witte Paard, which is Dutch for the White Horse, because it's a white building, get it? Also, that is the name of the restaurant in the Efteling. So last episode, this was only just the front wall, nothing else. Today we have some shops in here, we have some flooring, some columns, and if we take a quick look over on this side, we can see this side has a nice exterior as well with some nice little terraces. And walking back over here to this side, we have another cool exterior over here, which I still need to finish. It doesn't have any doors yet at the moment. And then over here on the back, we have a little toilet and a first aid room and a staff building we built inside it. As you might have noticed, there is no interior in this restaurant. And I don't think I'm going to build an interior. I did the floors, I did the walls. The ceilings are not great. Yeah, there are a couple of shops in here, so people can actually go in and buy stuff. But I was planning on doing an interior for this building, but you know, most people, they don't walk into buildings when visiting a park, at least not on Planet Coaster. And we probably won't see this anymore, except for, you know, the final walkthrough of the park once it's done. But yeah, I didn't want to spend an entire day and a whole lot of parts on building an interior that people will hardly ever see anyway. I think that time and those parts are better used elsewhere. I know the frame rate for the park is still pretty good at the moment, but saving the park and loading the park is starting to take multiple minutes, and even the autosaves have started taking up a whole lot of time. In fact, whenever the game autosaves at this moment, it freezes for about 10 to 15 seconds, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but it happens every 10 minutes because the autosave is every 10 minutes. And yeah, that is becoming an issue. So I want to save as many parts as I can. And that's why we are not going to build an interior for this restaurant. Unless, of course, you guys tell me that you actually do want an interior for this restaurant. And if enough people leave a comment saying they want an interior, then we'll build an interior. Then, if we take a walk over here alongside Villa Volta, we didn't do a whole lot over here. I added a couple of statues, I think. Don't think that was in the last episode. But then we come here, and you can already see it in the distance. Here we have a little path with a whole lot of these dragon lights at the sides. Now, I wanted to light up this path with these dragon lights, but when I put them down, I came to the conclusion that these dragon lights, they don't give off a whole lot of light. So I put down a whole lot of them, and it was still pretty dark. So I resorted to putting some spotlights under the ground, but at that point I had already placed down a whole lot of these lights, and I think they actually look pretty cool, even though there are way too many. But I think it actually looks pretty cool. This is something that you would probably see in Efteling, even though it's not a recreation of something, but this is something that Efteling would come up with, path with all these dragon statues, and they would call it probably the dragon path or something. So we are going to keep it. This is now called the dragon path, and I'll show you how it's lit up when it's nighttime in a little bit. But then we get over here to the main new attraction for this update, and we can already see it. This is in-game. It is called the Sky Temple, and this is a really unique attraction. There is actually one of these in Efteling. It's called the Pagode, and I don't know of any other parks in the world that have an attraction like this, a ride like this. This is an absolutely beautiful ride, very calming, very serene. Every time when I'm in Efteling, I always go on this ride. It's a very calming little ride. Usually it doesn't have a long queue, so you don't have to wait very long. And yeah, you know, it's a couple of minutes when you go up, then you do a full rotation at the top and then you come back down, but it's very quiet up there. Right, the queue, nothing really fanciful. The queue for this ride in Efteling is actually pretty simple as well. It's just a couple of times up and down and that's it. And then we'll take an odd ride in a minute. Right now though, I want to take you through the exit path. And then we have a little bit of a plaza over here. And we have a Asian restaurant. And in Efteling, there is actually a Asian restaurant next to the pagoda, which is called Toko. And it's not really a restaurant. It's more like this. It's more like a booth with some tables and a roof around it, so people can sit and not get wet. So it's actually pretty spot on, even though it doesn't look like it at all. The idea is basically the same. So we have a noodle shop over here, and I added a drinks machine on this side with some advertising, some room to sit down, some lights. These lights, by the way, don't give off any light at all either, so we had to resort to the spotlight under the ground trick for these ones as well. And then on this side of the railroad, I added a little bit of a secret path. It's supposed to be a little bit of a hidden path through the forest. There isn't any forest on this side yet, but there is on this side. So this is supposed to be a little bit of a secret path for people who want to walk from all the way there from Spook Slot to over here, and they don't want to, you know, walk all the way around Spook Slot and Villa Volta just to get here. Excellent. Before I show you the night view, let's take a quick ride on the pagoda. Here we are going up. We can see the railroad. Nothing over there at the moment, but there will be in the future. And then as we turn around, we can start seeing some of the other rides. There we have the carousel, the Insanity, obviously the South American themed area. Nice cool little view of Spook Slot. Nothing over there yet either, but there will be in the future as well. Then we can see the little lake, the car attraction. We can see Pegasus. And the letters have vanished from this distance. Villa Volta is actually pretty close to us right now, so we don't see a whole lot of it, especially if you look out into the distance. There's the White Horse, of course. And then the rest of the park isn't filled in yet, so no need to look at some empty fields on this side. So yeah, that is the update for now. I think this is an excellent addition to the park. I wanted to have the pagoda, the Sky Temple, in a little bit of a central area, so that when you go on the pagoda, when you go on the Sky Temple, and you do a rotation at the top, you can see something in every direction. So if you take a look from above, this is basically going to be the center of the park. Not quite. I don't think we'll go as far to the left as we have gone to the right over here. And we might not go as far to the bottom as we've gone to the top, but this will sort of be the center, and you will have something to look at in every direction when you go up with the Sky Temple. Excellent. Then if we take a quick look at the dark, first of all, we have, of course, the restaurant over here. I added a couple of spotlights on the top of the building just to light up the terraces a little bit more with a little bit of a brighter light, because these lampposts, they give off a very yellowish orangey light. So I added some spotlights to make sure the light is a little bit brighter. So people who sit here and enjoy their meal in the dark can actually see what they are eating. And these tables are very dirty. Or maybe that's just the texture. I think that's just the texture. So yeah, a little bit of light all around here. Then if we take a quick look at the Dragon Path is absolutely beautiful. Very yellowish, very yellow light. And if you take a quick peek underground, as you can see, I gave each of the lampposts a spotlight beneath it, so that it actually lights up the area a little bit, instead of the dim light the lantern itself emits. And then the Sky Temple itself. The Sky Temple, I kept the colors pretty basic. When we look at it during daytime, we can see the colors of the Sky Temple actually very much blue, green and white, and I did that on purpose so that it blends in with the sky during the day. and it doesn't, you know, of course you're going to notice one of those big things going up in the air and spinning around, but the colors blend a little bit with the sky during the day, but then during the night I gave it this really bright red color for their lanterns over here, so it looks like a big red UFO is floating above the park during the night. I think that looks absolutely beautiful. So yeah, that is how it looks during the night. Not too bad, if I do say so myself. Excellent progress again. So I'm going to leave you here with this beautiful night shot of the Sky Temple going up into the air. And for me, now I'm going to start building on the next part of the park, which is probably going to be finishing detailing the Pegasus. And for me, it'll probably take a couple of days, but for you, it'll only take a couple seconds. So I'll see you right back here in a couple seconds. Alright, and here we are once again at the road leading up to the spoke slot. This is becoming a very favorite place for us to start these little updates. Coincidentally, today's update takes place on this very road. It's not just that we are here because we start here anyway. No, we have an update on this road to begin with. This little area over here is what we designated to be a playground. And I have created a couple of seesaws, some swings with some climbing frames on the side, and a little sand pit where people can play, or kids can play in the sand, build some sand castles. We still have a little bit of room left over here, and people still walk through everything. I haven't put down any barriers yet. We still have a little bit of room left, and this is going to be a bigger climbing frame with a slide attached to it. So that is what this area is going to be. There is only very little progress over here because this has been my distraction from the main project that I have been working on for the last couple of days. But every time I got sick and tired of working on the main project, I wanted to do something else, but I still wanted to play Planet Coaster. I came back here, built one of these little playground equipment thingies, and then I went back to the main project, which we are going to see right now. So, for the main project, we have to go through the tunnel over here. And as you can see, there are lots of entertainers walking around, lots of employees walking around. And that is because I opened up the park for guests a couple of times during the last couple of days, just to see how the guest flow would be, which attractions would be popular, if I needed to make parts bigger or smaller or something like that. And I can give you one spoiler. The car ride attraction, which is probably the least popular attraction in the entire bit of the Efteling, is the most popular attraction in this game. There were 4,000 people in the park and 3,900 of them wanted to go into the car ride. So, and unfortunately, that part of the park is a dead end. So everybody going in the car ride, but also everybody coming out of the car ride, and everybody going to the car ride but discovering they couldn't pay for it, every single person had to go over the same path. So it was a nightmare. I'm probably going to open the park up in scenario editor mode in a little bit and see if I can do a little bit something to the popularity of that car ride, because that is way too unrealistic for me. Right, then we come over here to the back of Spoke Slot, still one of my favorite places in the entire park. The view over the lake over here, absolutely beautiful. We now have at Tufferbaan, the white horse over there, which we saw in the last update. And if we then walk across the white horse, you can already see it a little bit in the distance. This is the entrance to Pegasus. I used the wings from the logo to put on either side of the entrance so that, yeah, it's obvious what this coaster is going to be. We'll take a look at the queue in a little bit, but this is what the coaster looks like from a guest perspective, and it looks absolutely beautiful. The sign is still really big, but it's a lot less big now that there is a lot of vegetation around, so I think that worked out pretty decently. And as you can already see, the reason it took so long for me to get this update done, well, for you it didn't take long, because for you it was only a couple of seconds, but for me it took a couple of days is because I put a fairy light on the entire coaster. On each side I put a fairy light on the railing of the coaster. We'll see how it looks in the dark in a couple of minutes. But yeah, it looks absolutely beautiful, I think. On the top over there you can see two flags, the Dutch flag and the Planet Coaster flag. Now in real life, the Pegasus, they always had two flags at the highest point of the coaster. One was the Dutch flag and one was the flag for the province of Brabant, or North Brabant as it's called. And now I am not from North Brabant, I am from a different province, so it didn't make sense for me to put that flag up there as well. So I switched it out for the Planet Coaster flag. I kept the Dutch flag because I am Dutch, of course. And yeah, this is how the coaster looks from the outside. Excellent. So let's take a quick peek at the queue. We go back over here. This is the queue. Hello, ma'am. And as you can probably tell, the vegetation around here is pretty big, pretty wild as well. One thing that I can remember from the original Pegasus and Efteling, especially towards the later years of its life, was that the trees around the coaster, it was really like you were flying 2 trees. It was, yeah, the vegetation was very thick, very wild. You were probably lucky if you didn't get hit by a branch in the face during the ride. So that is a little bit what I tried to capture here. So lots of vegetation all around, creeping in on the paths, creeping in on the coaster. We have a fast pass over here for the first time, but this is the entrance queue. Goes all the way to the back over here. Then we have these cattle pen things going up and down, up and down. Then we get to the front of the coaster. We still have an archer over there. And again, I kept the station building really small as possible. Nothing really special about the station building. The original Pegasus also just had a wooden building, just something to cover up the station for people to be dry in and people who worked at the coaster to be dry and out of the wind. Then we get into the station building again, very simple. I made it entirely out of wood. The launch area over there, I covered it with some wood as well to make it look a little bit more cozy. We'll take an on-ride in a minute, but we get to the entrance over here. No, not the entrance, the exit over here. Between this little hop and this little hop of the coaster, we have a beautiful view of the coaster over here again. And then we are back at the exit. Excellent. Now, if we jump out of Tadget Cam real quick, right, out of Tadget Cam, this is what the coaster looks like from a distance right now. As you can see, plenty of vegetation around, a whole lot of trees, a whole lot of bushes. Again, I extended the trees into the background, into the backdrop, just like we did over here, to make it blend in with the rest of the area, with the rest of the environment. So that is completely done over here, this part of the park now. And if we then take a look at night, then we can see that all my hard work, it has paid off. We have the entire coaster lit up, not just with spotlights from below, but also these fairy lights along the entire track of the coaster on both sides. It took me literally 3 days to do this. It is such a annoying little task. You might think it doesn't look like that much, but when you're doing it, man, I tell you. So if we take a look at it, we can see it's actually 925 fairy lights of 1 and 2 meters, a couple of 4 meter ones, but there weren't a whole lot of places on the coaster that I could use the 4 meter one. I've put them all in the same building. I put them all in the same scenery group. And the advantage of that is that with a few simple clicks, we could, for instance, turn it blue. So now that we have turned all the fairy lights blue, it immediately gives off a completely different vibe of the coaster. And I think that's absolutely beautiful. If we ever get sick and tired of the way this coaster looks, instead of having to replace it with something else, we can just change the lights like that, and it's a completely different coaster. And the same goes for the spotlights that are placed around the coaster that light up the supports. As you can see, there are 95 spotlights. Oh, to save. As you can see, there are 95 spotlights dotted all around the coaster. Together, they light up the supports of the coaster, which I did, by the way, add to a little bit. I did add a few of these sideways supports on a couple of corners, just to make it look a little bit more sturdy, a little bit more realistic. Didn't put a whole lot of time in that, but they are there. Yeah, like I said, 95 spotlights make up the underlight of the coaster, so to speak. And because they are all in the same building as well, we can use that building with a single button click to light up the coaster in a completely different color. Just like that, the coaster is blue. Isn't that beautiful? And we can use every color we want. And just like that, the coaster is red. Completely different view, don't you think? I think that is absolutely beautiful. The fairy lights unfortunately can't be controlled by a display sequencer. The spotlights can, however, so I'm thinking I might do a rainbow coaster where I put all the spotlights into a display sequencer and then with a little gradient change the light from red to orange to yellow to green to blue, you know, the colors of the rainbow. So we have a rainbow coaster. For now though, I want to keep it the same color that the original Pegasus was, which was yellowish orange. So this is how we're going to keep it for now, but the colors might change in the future. So keep an eye out for that. All right. Now, of course, the one thing you all want to see is the on-ride. And I think we're going to do the on-ride during the day. I think that just gives a little bit of a better ambiance for this coaster, even though the lights are pretty cool. We'll do an on-ride in the dark later for this coaster. For now though, let's do an on-ride during the day. Here we go. Alright, and that was an on-ride on the Pegasus. Again, pretty short coaster, nothing really special. I didn't particularly smooth this coaster because the original Pegasus, it got closed down because it was such a... how do you say? It was such a rough ride. At the end of its life, people really didn't enjoy the coaster anymore. You got thrown around in the coaster cart from left to right. It was really uncomfortable. Lots of people complained, and that was the reason why the original Pegasus got broken down and a new ride was put in its place, Joris en de Draak. But yeah, this is the update for Pegasus, and yeah, most of the work has gone in lighting the coaster. Is it worth it to light a coaster like this? Probably not. It's been such tedious work. The end result looks beautiful, don't get me wrong, it looks beautiful. And if you don't have to do it yourself, then it is absolutely beautiful. But if all I can see when I see these fairy lights is all the hours, all the days I spent doing, you know, if we take a look, no two parts of the coaster are exactly the same. So I was constantly doing like, okay, a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit over here, then a little bit like so, a little bit like so. Change the camera, does it fit? No, a little bit more that way. Excellent, boom. And that I had to do 900 times. So yeah. Not really worth it for me in terms of how much work it cost me, but I do think it looks absolutely beautiful. Alright, then for the next update, we are here at the start of the South American themed area. And this is where we get a little bit of an update that is a little bit different than the previous updates. This is going to be the first thing that I've built in this park that isn't inspired by Efteling. Of course, this entire South American themed area is inspired by a single ride in Efteling, Piranha, and we already stretched the inspiration a little bit to its limits in terms of this themed area. And I already said in a previous episode that I wanted to add a restaurant on this side of the park, Mexican themed restaurant probably, because we have a Mexilente in the game. We have a South American themed area, even though Mexico probably isn't technically South America. But anyway, I wanted a Mexican restaurant in this part of the park. Unfortunately, Efteling doesn't have Mexican restaurants. There aren't even a lot of restaurants around the Piranha. I think there are just some food stalls here and there. But we needed some inspiration for a restaurant, so I went and looked a little bit around, and I came up with something from a different theme park. So it's still inspired by a theme park. If we take a look over here, we walk into the area. We now see a big building over here on this side of the area. Still in the same texture and colors as the rest of the park, or the rest of this themed area over here. And what this is one of those pyramids you see in South America. You know, the Inca ones, they have these pyramids with the stairs in the middle and then the giant steps on the side. So that is what this is modeled after a bit, and this is actually inspired by a Mexican restaurant that is in Epcot. Epcot, of course, being a very known theme park, part of Disney in Florida, I believe. The real building that this is modeled after goes all the way to the top and it ends in a pyramid shape. I wanted to keep it a little bit in line with the rest of this themed area, which is very low to the ground, not that much height. The coaster isn't very tall, the log flume isn't very tall, the mountain isn't very tall. I didn't want to make this too tall either, so I stopped about halfway and gave it a flat roof. And as you can see, I added some entertainment points around the place so that people can take pictures with entertainers over here in front of the pyramid. But the real business end of the pyramid is on this side. Over here we have a little terrace with some seating, some steps, some flowers. Obviously an entrance for people with wheelchairs or who can't walk, can't use a staircase. And then over here on the inside we have a couple of restaurants on the ground floor. We have a Mexcellente, of course. We have a churros restaurant and a Gulpy. Again, no interior in this restaurant, same as with the White Horse. I just don't think people are going to come here very often, so I think it would be wasteful to use a whole lot of parts to create an interior on this space where nobody is ever going to see it anyway. So that is why we don't do interiors in restaurants. And then if we go back down over the table, of course, and we look over here. Well, first let's take a look over here. I had a little bit of space left on this corner, so I wanted to add in another flat ride, and we added the shortest freefall tower that we have in the game. It's colored yellow, orange and purple as a little bit of a nod towards the other rides in this game, because you know everything is very yellow, very orangey, and the coaster is of course lit up purple during the night. Then this building over here, this, you can already see a couple of rooms over there. This is a hotel building, and this over here is the lobby. So if you go in here, we have our first little information booth that we need to sell both Fast Pass tickets, and we needed to sell golden hotel room tickets. So this is actually being used by the guests in the park. There's also a toilet and a first aid over here as well. And through this door over here, this is where you enter the hotel rooms. There's one of these hotel blocks at the back. So it's actually a hotel with also some hotel blocks built inside it. As you can see, the lobby is decorated a little bit. Not a whole lot, just some chairs, some tables, some benches, some pictures. The reason we decorated the inside of the lobby a little is because the walls on the outside, they're mainly glass, so you can look inside from the outside and you can see if anything is inside. So that is why we did a little bit of decorating, so it doesn't appear to be an empty box. And then over here on this side we also have a little bit of a plaza for hotel guests to be able to go outside once the park has closed down, in case they want to sit in the sun some more, or you know, have a drink with some friends or something like that. Then this is another way into the park. So if we take a look outside of Tadget Cam, obviously this entire building is nothing that we have in Efteling. I wanted a restaurant here, a Mexican themed restaurant, or at least a South American themed restaurant, and I think we did that pretty good. I don't think it's all too bad that we looked for inspiration elsewhere, because even though this is an Efteling inspired park, I do want to build the best theme park that I can, and it's not an Efteling recreation. So sometimes you have to look elsewhere, sometimes you have to take some creative liberties, stuff like that. So I don't think it's too bad at all. Now, one thing I absolutely didn't want to do was I didn't want this end of the park to be another dead end. We already have a dead end on that side near the car attraction, and I didn't want this to be a dead end. I desperately wanted a path to wrap around over here to go to this area of the theme park and eventually back to this side of the theme park. So this would not be a dead end. Now, normally, if you have a hotel in your theme park, so this part is the hotel, this part is the restaurant. Normally what you do is you have an entrance at the back that goes outside the theme park and an entrance at the front that goes inside the theme park. So that hotel guests, they can get in and out of the hotel without going into the theme park, and they can go into the theme park from their hotel rather quickly. But because I wanted this path to be on this side, and this path has to go back to this side of the theme park to wrap around and connect to this side again, that wasn't really possible. So if I would have done that, you'd have a parking lot over here. That was the original plan, to have a parking lot over here. But with this path over here, that would have meant that the path either had to go over the parking lot and outside the park, or the cars had to go through the theme park, which wasn't ideal either. So what I came up with is this bridge over here. Still have to add a little door over here, but this bridge, and this bridge is a nice physical end to this themed area at the same time. So that turns out to be rather handy. So this bridge goes over the path, over the railroad, and then it's going to come down over here. This is where the parking lot for the hotel is going to be. So people who, you know, have booked a room in the hotel, they can get in and out of the hotel without going into the theme park, but they can also go into the theme park from their hotel. And that is the way it should be. And this bridge, like I said, this is a nice physical end to the themed area. Still have to do the plants over here on this side, but this side is going to be a different theme than the South American theme that we have here. All that is left for South America is this part of the map, little bit of plants, some trees, some bushes, and then this area of the map, this themed area, is sort of done. We still have this little open spot over here, but I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do here. I think this is going to be a blend of the South American theme and whatever theme we are going to get over here. So that is the plan for this side. Speaking of plans, what is next for this theme park? Now, we are pretty far along. We are much further along than I anticipated we would be at the end of, what is this, episode 4? I anticipated that we wouldn't be halfway where we are now at the end of this episode, but I had so much fun building, I had so much fun recording, I had so much fun editing it as well, that, you know, these last couple of episodes, they flew. I intended to put out maybe 2 a month, but it has been 1 a week so far. Hopefully we can keep that momentum going. So what are the plans for the next couple of episodes? Basically, what are the plans for the future of this park? Well, if we take a look over here on this side of the South American theme park, themed area, there is going to be a coaster, and it's going to be a dive coaster inspired by the Baron. That is what is going to be here. And then on this side, there may be a few more shops or some restaurants, but that is going to be the left edge of the theme park. Then on this area over here, we have a little bit of room. And I think this is going to be a Darkride inspired by Symbolica. So this is going to be a trackless Darkride, fantasy style, magic themed over here. And it's going to be a little bit of a castle, probably, the outside show building. Then on this side of the map, on the side of Pegasus, I plan on building a Darkride over here as well. But this one inspired by Droomvlucht. Don't know how many of you know Droomvlucht, but Droomvlucht is a Darkride where you are sitting in a sort of suspended coaster and you are taken through a dream world. And I think that is an absolutely beautiful Darkride, and I want to build something inspired by it on this side of the map. Then over here to the back of the restaurant, that is going to be where the steam carousel is going to be, or something similar to the steam carousel. Not quite sure how I'm going to build that, but I am going to use the big carousel that is in the game to build over here. Then down here, this is going to be a lake, a bigger lake than this one over here, and it's going to be a little bit more artificial. This one was made to look a little bit natural, but this one is going to be a little bit more artificial. And then at the bottom of the lake, there's going to be another coaster inspired by the Flying Dutchman. The Flying Dutchman is, of course, a water coaster that starts with a little bit of a dark ride and ends with a splash in the lake. So that is where the inspiration is going to come from, and that is going to be at the bottom of the lake that we built over here. And then we have to still build an entrance somewhere. I'm thinking either here or here. And then we could add a promenade as well, like they have in Efteling. And one thing I also really want to do is I want to build a dark ride, a boat dark ride, based on Fata Morgana. But I'm not sure if we're going to have room over here for that. I still plan on building it, but if it doesn't fit or we don't have the space for it, then I will probably do a separate series of building the dark ride as detailed as possible, instead of just building it in this park and showing you the end result. But yeah, that is something I still want to add in this park. So those are the plans for the future. Coaster, dark ride, coaster / dark ride, carousel, dark ride, maybe another dark ride, entrance somewhere. So still plenty of things to do. We are nowhere near the end of the series. We're probably not even halfway to the end, I'd say. Yeah, I think again for today, excellent progress. I really like how the Pegasus has turned out. This view, one of my favorite views in this park. So yeah, excellent work. As always, if you guys have any suggestions, any questions, if there is a ride in Efteling you want to see that we use to take inspiration from, please let me know in the comments. I am happy to read all your comments, and I am happy to take in any suggestions that you might have. But for now, I want to thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye bye!